Thank you, Simon. All right. Hi together. My name is Jochen. I'm working for Avira, the security and privacy software company, and we have a worldwide user base of roughly 100 million users. And our mission is actually to protect people in this world that is getting more and more connected. And today I want to talk a little bit or share a few thoughts with you about how we are driving customer centricity in our company in order to deliver to the market what is needed. So first user experience is the green button. That works. So I'll first give you an example about how massively our environment and the environment in which our users are living is changing. It's exponentially changing. I will talk a little bit about service effectiveness, not efficiency, but effectiveness. I will address how we're handling value-added customer contacts and how we're fixing root causes for customer dissatisfaction. And in the end, how we're driving our organization to deliver customer centricity to the user and to our customers. So as I said, the world is changing exponentially currently, and you can read it everywhere on the internet. And here's an example from an annual torchlight procession that is taking place every year in a European city. And this is how it looked like roughly 10 years ago. People, torches, nighttime, maybe singing, whatever happens there. This is how the same event looked like 10 years later. So people still attend that torchlight procession. However, the way how they perceive the world and the filters through which they perceive the world have completely changed. They are looking at the event through their smartphones, also in order to record and share it. Even though they are personally there, it seems like they're a little bit farther away and they're perceiving things in a very, very different way. So this is how the world of our users and customers changes within a few years. Now the question is, how will it look like in another 10 years? And I can just guess, but I think it's going to look like, again, like this. And the simple reason is not because people don't want to record or share anymore, but they will wear contact lenses that have microprocessors and are connected to their smartwatches, and people will maybe not even know anymore what a smartphone is, because smartphones will just die. They are too big, too dumb, not elegant enough. So this is the change in which the world currently is. And there's much more, but these are just a few examples. So when we want to service our customers, call center people, and I'm a call center person, normally think about how can we make it more efficient, right? How can we make it cheaper for the company? How can we get rid of all these inbound customer contacts that we don't want to serve and they're just costing us money? However, I think it's more about being effective using these customer contacts that you have and the customer interaction and creating an impact. So, and there's a chain of impact. The highest impact that you can create for your customer happiness as well as for the P&L of your company is, of course, to get product usability right or service usability, whatever it is. Get it right from the start. And you can do that, for example, through maximized automation, right? If your product just works, well, pretty easy. Nobody has to complain. It just works. It's just there. And where that reaches its limits, then you can apply self-service where users can really help themselves. You can do that on your own, but also always look out how you can leverage sources or resources of third parties. So that's a very important thing because it's highly cost efficient and it helps you to evolve much quicker. Where that doesn't help, then we come to an area where the impact that you can create is already declining massively, and that's when you apply self-help, right? So examples for that are communities or forums, etc., where self-help is crowdsourced and people help each other. Again, you can use third-party products, or you can provide help on your own, like through knowledge-based articles, for example, or through video tutorials. So already rather low impact on customer happiness, and the worst thing that you of course can have is an inbound contact center, right? That's where people call when everything went wrong already anyway. So we have to make our best and put in our efforts to keep the impact as high as we can on the product and service usability, maybe also a little bit on things like crowdsourcing, and make own help, knowledge base articles that we have to create with a team in advance and so on and so forth, or inbound contact centers, make them redundant as much as we can. That's what we're looking for in order to get things right. So I'll give you an example. We created a self-help platform that we call Avira Answers. And this is how it works. The customer has a question and he goes to the platform and he will find on this platform, that's nothing new, knowledge base content and user-generated content and video tutorials and all that kind of stuff. And he can look up things, he can search for information, and he gets a list of a mix, in this case, of user-generated and Avira-generated content. So nice, not very new so far. The next step is, if the user doesn't find his right answer, he will post his question and ask the community to help him out. So he posts it, and then again gets answers. He can discuss, comment, reply, like it, mark his question as solved, and so on and so forth. A lot of gamification levels are in there, so users help themselves mutually, and that's about crowdsourcing help, actually. Sometimes that doesn't work, and I have to apologize for the German workshop, German screenshot. Actually, beauftragen Sie einen Expert means hire an expert. So everything that happened so far in this flow was the user gets information how he could help himself, maybe, right? But you can also, through this platform, hire an expert, see who is online. So here are just a few examples. Chat with that expert. So of course, first you would look at his profile, can this expert help me? Then chat with this expert, and the platform has integrated also a remote access tool where if you want to, the expert can even connect to your device and solve your problem on behalf of you. And if it's an expert who wants to earn some money, he can also give you a quote, and you can say, yes, I'm happy to pay like 5 years in order to get my printer installed, something like that, and then the expert can do that as well. So we have applied several layers, how we're getting within one platform from a traditional approach of just providing knowledge base articles to people are really effectively helping each other. Just an example, but still pretty low in the impact chain, right? With a comparably low impact on user happiness. So what else can we do? There are a lot of customer contacts that add value. Imagine we would be in a world where you just contact the service of a company and you get an email response, and we all know that, then you get an email response that's half or fully automated. Let's assume that works pretty well. And these systems would be all working very great, and they would all answer our questions and problems straight away. What about this customer contacts that we will not have then anymore? I mean, they are valuable. You have to talk to your customers because you can learn so much from them. And here are a few examples how we're currently doing it and also in the future. One thing is we have established a feedback community. So there are platforms out there like IdeaScale, for example, or User Voice that you can use. And these feedback communities are pretty cool because they help you in product innovation and understand feature requests and general feedback that you then can proceed and deliver back, for example, to your product management or marketing. How does that work in our case? So this is how the community looks like. You can see a few ideas that people have put up here. Others can vote up or down, like it or not, can comment on it, can vary the idea, and so on and so forth. So, or they can even submit a new idea if they don't find a discussion that they would like to join. What is important in every community in order to drive engagement is, for example, reputation management, right? People love to collect credits and other stuff. So if you want to have a vivid community that really helps you to understand what your users want actively from you, then you could do it like that way. So within 1.5 years, we, for example, through that managed to cover like 113 countries worldwide so far, from where we are getting feedback and which we are processing. And of course, we are giving feedback back to the users, right? We are answering to them, say, hey, cool idea, but we're not going to do it because strategically now, or fantastic, we're already on it, or it's going to be done by then and then, for example. So it's a permanent dialogue that we have with our users there. So feedback communities is one part. Another idea which I love even more is to have a permanent dialogue with your customers in social media. I'm not talking about reactive social media support. So somebody says on Twitter, hey, at Avira, I have an issue with installing your software, for example. Okay, that's pretty normal. We all know that. You need a pretty good service level because social media are very, very fast. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about be just there in all these forums and communities, etc., out there where your users talk not just about your products, but in a wider sense about our business, and use that opportunity to interact with them. There are consumer electronics companies who are already investing really interesting amounts of money and having teams that are just out there just to permanently talk with the user and be part of the community and learn from that and feed that back what they learn to the product management. So it's important, be where your customers are, and also, of course, understand the sentiment in which people are talking about you. Of course, there's much more, but these are just a few examples. Second point that is great when you're having a customer dialogue on social media is you can build trust, and you can see this trust pays out. People will retweet, will like, will forward, will comment, people will get active, and that actually increases your reach when you build trust. Social intelligence is, of course, power, right? You learn so much from that. You can analyze, you can do semantic analysis, you can interview the team that is doing that social dialogue, and they really quite often get back with really cool ideas they hear back out there, or they verify ideas that you have. You can even learn about the segments, what your users are like, what they're doing, because this is about their real life. Or the real environment in which they are using things, and you can learn, for example, about their matters of interest. So you learn a lot of that. Social and mobile first is pretty important because people actually tend to go much more on social media, not just to talk about your products, but also to seek help and to exchange each other. If you're not there to listen, or to talk, then you're just missing a very important part and one of the most important channels at all. I'm not talking about WhatsApp. So from my perspective, having WhatsApp as a support channel is just another chat or email tool. So that's not so really fancy and cool, but be there and talk and have that dialogue. And the last point, and that's a good message about that, there is an ROI that you can calculate based on all these views and clicks and interaction that you have. Actually, I would say there are two different kinds of currencies. One is the NPS, or Net Promoter Score, which is a metric that helps you to analyze and understand how much customers are willing to promote you or your brand, your products or your services, which pays out, right? So about NPS, you will find a lot of literature on the internet if you don't know it already. And the other part of currency, or way of kind of currency, is what we know from online marketing, which is CPM, CPC, or cost per view, for example. So what we did in order to build up our business case when investing in the social dialogue is that we really use these metrics in order to build up the business case, to calculate when we will reach break even, and so on and so forth. We consciously moved away from hard selling on social media. At least in our case, it doesn't work. Maybe there's somebody here who has a different experience, but this is the way how we are doing it. Root cause fixes. So things go wrong, and I think whenever a customer needs some kind of help about your products or services, something has gone wrong. It's not the customer's fault, it's your fault. So how can you fix that? And there's one important thing and that is timeliness. The later in the process of developing products or features you try to get things right, the higher the cost for getting things right are. Actually, costs grow exponentially. So that means if you want to think customer-centric and make it usable, you have to start already in the concept phase. And here's an example how we're doing it. So UX testing, a lot of you might be doing that as well, is that first, of course, you do some research. You have focus group discussions, in-depth interviews, whatever it is, where we are discussing these concepts with our users or our user base in general. And then, of course, we are processing our findings and put our findings into the concept before we're building clickable dummies, prototypes, etc., which we then can test again. So how are we doing that? There is one thing. These are 3 of our market researchers. For example, we built our own usability test lab. Pretty easy. You just need 2 rooms, put one of these mirrored windows between the 2 rooms, so just like in the criminal stories on TV, right, when criminals are interviewed. So that's exactly what we did. In the one room, we can have focus group discussions or in-depth interviews with individuals using our software. In the other room, we put, for example, our designers or product managers. You can't believe what an amazing experience it is to see a software product manager for the first time in his life using a real user made from flesh and bones using his product. Or how fast designers are jumping to the wallboard, making charts and creating ideas, etc., even during the interviews. So that's really creating a lot of engagement also within the company. But we are also, of course, doing user testing online. The advantage of that is that the user is in his or her natural environment in which he's using that. The problem about users is you can't upload them to your analytical cloud in order to analyze them, right? There is always something behind that you cannot upload. So whenever you want to understand how and when and where your product is really used, you have to go where your user is. And with online UX testing, that works. That means users have a screen. That screen is recorded. Their voice is even recorded. They can comment on it. And in the top right box, there is a set of tasks the users have to go through when testing and should give just feedback by just talking and just commenting on it. With that, overnight, you can get, within 12 hours, you can get a lot of feedback worldwide for an idea that you have, and the cost for that are just like roughly only 10% of an offline user testing in a studio. So we really love that, and we use it very frequently in a very, very agile manner. So there's many, many more things and sources of information and sources from which we can gain insights. But how are we delivering that back to the market? Because if you just learn, that's nice, but you have to do something with it and deliver it back to the market. So how are we doing that? We said our customer insights teams, they have a clear mission. They are responsible to make the customer's voice heard in the company. It's not the product managers, the marketing people, etc., not other people's fault if it doesn't work. It's this team's responsibility. That's one of the KPIs by which they are measured. Plus, next step, they have to drive the effective execution on user demands. It is their job to track, even on a very, very detailed level, also in an agile software development environment, it's very important to track how our organization is executing it. And then in the end, of course, you create some impact on the user base and you have to measure it. 4 things that are important. First of all, make it emotional. When your product managers just say, wow, that's really cool what these guys are doing, I have to be there, I have to participate, right? That's the basic foundations, that's psychology, and that's super important. That's where it all starts, even before you start setting up processes or rules. Next thing is detailing. That's processes and rules. Make exactly clear what the expectation is on how we as a company and organization are working with all these insights that we're gaining. Penetration is important. People change their behavior based on frequency. If you don't continuously repeat how important this user's voice and insights is, and something has to be done about it and delivered back to the market, it will not work. And in the end, reward those who are doing good and address immediately where it doesn't work. I'm nearly at the end, so my time is over. So 2 steps how we're doing that. From insights to implementation internally, there's a lot of owners with a lot of sources of information in the company, like in every company. The contact center has some, the researchers are owning some resources, and so on and so forth. And we're putting that into backlogs. A technical backlog in order to fix technical issues, a usability backlog in order to make things better usable and to increase adoption rates, and a backlog where we put all the other research methods in. And we regularly groom that with the product owners and with the product managers. That's super important. It has to be a weekly habit, permanent interaction, and I can tell you that works. And then, of course, I said before, you have to measure the impact you're creating. So here, for example, we are measuring installs versus uninstalls of our software. We're measuring sentiment in social media. We're measuring in our backends the behavior of our products on people's devices, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of ways. I'm not going to go into detail on that now, but really, really, really measure it. And your team is measured by this success. If these curves go up or down the way you want it and the way you are aiming for, then your customer insights or advocacy team is successful, not before. So in the end, I think in our digitally transforming world, customer service will look very differently in the future. It will use telemetry, it will use artificial intelligence-based platforms, it will have a social dialogue, we will work a lot with insights. In the end, and we are already gone that way a little bit, we are already in a situation where we can actually predict, this is an example from a Markov chain, where we can actually predict what's going to happen to a customer and what he's going to do next, and then we can act accordingly, proactively, and not reactively. So I think that's the future of customer service and customer advocacy. Thanks for your time.